number one most specific complaint that I received in the last couple of months. There's a lot of things that are important to people out there, and that's not to take anything away from that. But the biggest complaint that I got is people in the audience talking, therefore other people can't hear what's going on up here, blurting out of comments, favorable or unfavorable, it really doesn't matter, that sort of thing. So if I could ask you to just be respectful of other people, and to if you need to talk, just go outside. Don't have a problem with that at all. But we need to keep an orderly meeting here. All right.
Hey Larry, if I get this piggyback technology-wise, the camera will track audio. So another reason to keep quiet behind the camera will try to track to the sound that's here. So we want to make sure that it stays up front here during the meeting.
So does that mean I have its undivided attention being this close?
Yeah.
You could take over.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's very
Pirate 101.
All right. Well, I'll call the meeting to order. Join me. Saying the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, our first item. No, you want to start?
Sure. All right, the Clearwater Valley Elementary School report. The Missoula Children's Theater came to Kuski, and the kids had a blast participating in it and did a great job. We also held our first STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math activity for parents and their students during parent-teacher conferences. Students had 3 project stations to attempt to first guess what would happen, their hypothesis, build and then test their hypothesis, and record their results. There were hot dogs, chips, and drinks that were supplies, compliments of the STEM grant that we received from attending the training back in October. This training was a Friday and Saturday, which I also attended, and it also demonstrated the dedication of our teachers to bring more opportunities to our students and school. A special thanks to Mrs. Wilkins in our building, who spent countless unpaid hours of her time to organize and make this a successful event for us. We are currently working with the Upriver Youth Council to bring a children's author to Kuski on March 22nd. His story is inspiring, and we are hoping to inspire some of our students. Every student that attends the assembly being held during school hours will receive one of the author's books. This is all being funded by the Upriver Youth Council. Elk City Schools is holding steady at 15 students with no new events planned for this month. We have our secretary and librarian now traveling to Elk City every month, and the work that they are doing to support Elk City is much appreciated. Technology report. We've rolled out the app for parents and staff and are working to highlight all the good things that are happening in our schools in our newsfeed on the new website. We are maintaining a stable platform for staff and students to work within. Michael has done a great job in not only keeping things running, but in building a great rapport with staff and students. In my mind, it's hard to value one over the other in terms of how important caring for the individual is. The resignation of our building tech is a hard blow to our district, and we will be looking for a candidate to replace him as he completes his contract for the school year. We can't pay people more if they bring a smile to everyone they see, but it sure is a bonus. It does make coming to work a whole lot more rewarding. We will miss Michael.
Kristen?
Grangeville High School report to the board. This weekend, our school play, Death by Chocolate, was put on by our students and our staff that did it. It was a great play. It was a lot of fun to watch the students. They got involved. During parent-teacher conferences, we ended up with over 130 conferences with parents at Grangeville High School, which is a good number of teachers and parents contacted. That doesn't count the contacts that they made outside of like doing emails, phone calls, or the time that they didn't have parents there. Those were actual contacts in the school. Our wrestlers went to state, 6 of them went. We had one young lady place second in the state tournament. Her name's Katie Beck. She's actually the coach's daughter. She did a great job for her senior year to place that high. Girls basketball, we're academic state champions. We're hoping by the next board meeting, we'll have a banner that the team will be presenting to the board. After the girls get a chance to sign it, then it'll be hung in our gym. They also took 3rd place in state. They did a great job. Boys basketball finished this 2nd district. Unfortunately, didn't qualify for the state tournament, but they had great leaps and bounds. They got a lot better as a team. Our spring sports and activities are just getting started. I had to run around right tonight after school to get a hard number on how many kids were going. And this is what the coaches reported. They have 25 students coming out for tennis, 32 coming out for baseball, 23 coming out for softball, and over 30 coming out for track. So our spring sports are very well participated in at Grangeville High School. I know the staff is continuing to work really hard to ensure the kids are getting the education that they need. And it's a privilege working with them. They're very hardworking, and they definitely do their due diligence with supporting their students. Thank you.
Mrs. Becker?
Good evening. This is the admin report for Clearwater Valley Junior Senior High School. So parent-teacher conference is successful here. Our teachers between the junior and the senior high school made over 150 contacts with parents in the 2 days. Reports from our greenhouse and ag department. So just a shout out to Jacobs Lumber. They've been huge in supporting our ag program. They just donated all of our soil for our greenhouse. Mrs. Charlie she just did a plant film. And so I actually brought in some plants. There's about 6 or 7 plants for the school board for each of you to take one. So there's a couple here. And there's a few over there from the plant sale that she had at parent teacher conferences. So in addition to that, right around Mother's Day, she does another plant sale out of the greenhouse. That's usually like flower baskets, like vegetables, and stuff like that. So Jacobs Lumber donated all of the soil for that. So we really appreciate their support to our program. FFA and softball. So this Friday, March 4th at 7 p.m. we're actually having donkey basketball here in the gym. I think it's a staff versus students. So come out and support that. It should be a fun time. I think it's been a couple of years. It's been, I think, 3 years since they've had that, just because of COVID stuff and like restrictions, and then them being booked out so far. So that's this Friday, 7 p.m. Like Mr. Miskin said, winter sports are wrapping up. Our girls basketball team, they took 3rd at districts. They were so close to state, almost made it into state, but we were really proud of them, how far that they went. Wrestling, 14 of our 16 wrestlers actually just went to state, and we had 6 of our wrestlers place. Darren Cross, 2nd place at state. Ian Bowler, 3rd place at state. Jacob Fabi, 5th place. Louis Fabi, 5th place. Bass Meyer, 6th place. And Isaac Goodwin, 6th place as well. So our wrestling team did phenomenal at state. We're really proud of them. So they just ended that. Spring sports started. Those numbers, track, we have 19 students that came out for track. Tennis, we have 14 students. Softball, 14 students. And we actually were co-oping with TAMI for softball. We are now our own to be in our own league for softball. So that 14 students is just our own here at CV. Baseball, 17. And then our play isn't scheduled until March 17th or 19th. You can't take it with you. It's a comedy original about this eccentric family from New York in the 1930s. So that is going to be going from March 17th through the 19th. So come out and support the play. So that's my board report. Thanks.
Mr. Weddle?
Our curriculum department, our elementary reading team met for the 3rd time on February 4th and narrowed our selection down to 3 companies. Wonders from McGraw Hill, Super Kids Reading from Zane Blauser, and Amplified Core Knowledge from Amplify. The materials are out in the buildings and all K-5 teachers are getting a chance to review those materials now and give input to their representatives. We will meet again in March to make our final recommendation. This team has worked extremely hard and well together. A lot of time and effort has gone into this adoption. The team is finding a real difference in K2 products where students are just learning how to read, and the 3-5 products where the students are starting to read to learn. I had my final meeting with the music team. They're recommending game plan music and music play online. They've also put a lot of time and effort in their adoption process. Both music teachers stated that the new resources would be a valuable addition to the music program. Met with our Shop Ag program leaders on February 15th to discuss their curriculum needs. Both teachers are now in the review process of iCIV, which is an online platform that gives them access to a variety of curriculum all in one platform. So instead of buying multiple textbooks, it's all housed in that one platform. We will meet again in March. In our special ed department, we got great news from the State Department of Education. We met all requirements of our special education general file review. I would like to thank our special education staff for the dedication to ensuring that our eligibility and IEP planning and paperwork meets all the state requirements. State testing, it's hard to believe it's that time of year again, but the state testing window opens on March 14th. And this window runs through May 13th. All students 3 through 8 in grade 10 will take the ISAT ELA and ISAT math test. And the ISAT science test is for grades 5, 8, and 11. And I'll be training those test administrators to administer those tests on March 4th.
Thank you. Mr. Upmore give you his report inside your report pack. This is not good. There were some questions about board members maybe wanting laptops. I wanted Mr. Rodriguez to hear if board member, I think Lacey was one that was interested, but I want to check with any of the others thought it would be helpful. If you had a laptop issued to you. You okay, Melissa? So just Lacey. When I introduce you to Maureen Bird, Maureen's our food service, Bernie, food service director. Have her give you a quick update.
Good evening. This is my first chance to come before the new board and welcome. You've got a heck of a job ahead of you. Let's get there. Food service is having another good year financially with the universal free meals. We're taking care of business, and something about food service that a lot of people don't really realize is all of our program is 100% federally funded, and any profit that our department receives, we can only spend it directly into food service, and it's been a great opportunity to replace equipment from the 1950s, just to give you an idea of where we're at. We're looking good for this year. A lot of people ask me about universal free meals becoming a reality, and I'm really not sure, but I do know that the state of New Jersey has come up with a funding model where it'll continue to be free meals for all students, because that's what we're here for, is to feed the children. The downside of food service is the supply chain issues. We place our orders every week and we never know. Are we going to get a white fork, a black fork? Are we going to get a tray? Are we going to get a plate? It's a real challenge, but we are winging it, and the kids are all pretty flexible as long as they get their favorite items. And tater tot casserole is back this month finally, because we can get mushroom soup again. So that's the big highlight for food service. Just wanted the opportunity to meet you all in person.
Thank you. Just quick update regarding absentee rates, continue to decline in all of our school buildings. We were hit really hard in our January time with student absentee rate as well as staff absentee rate. Knock on wood, we continued through that. Our team did a magnificent job trying to work through that. Substitutes continue to be a difficult add for us, both in the transportation area as well as in our schools. But the absentee rate is declining, and that's good news right now. In your packet, there will take some time, perhaps even when you have a chance to look over some scores that I put in there around our schools, third grade start reading. There's some IRI scores. I would just say, as you take the time to look through there, it gives you a snapshot through January. Obviously, the goal in these graphs is that, there they are, is that you would see the red obviously continuing to diminish. And in most cases, they are. I think that's the good news in all of these particular pieces. I'll highlight, though, we continue to learn from our teams, our team and our teachers about the impacts of COVID and that lost gap of learning that's now a year and a half ago. We still are seeing those particular gaps in the classroom, still struggling, working hard to try and make up some of those, that lost learning piece. When school was closed, as well as some of the closures early on with bouncing back and forth to visual learning, paper packets, that particular piece. So we continue to monitor these particular scores monthly. We go through them as a leadership team in our leadership meetings, and obviously we'll continue to talk about the good work that's being done by our teachers every day, and obviously the focus work that each of those buildings will have in conversation through those professional learning committees. I'm beginning the work for the resignation of Adam Upmore, our GEMS principal. In that process of opening that particular position up, I'll be working with our leadership team to also build a team for that particular process. Staff at GEMS, involvement there, and there may be one board member that may want to sit on that particular committee as well as we move forward. That might be very helpful. You know, it's an amazing staff you have at Mountain School District. It's been quite a pleasure to work with the group of people that I have gotten to meet and know at all levels of our school district. Tonight, I'm submitting to you my resignation as your superintendent. After spending time at legislature this last week, recognizing there's no funding model remedy for our district that will save perhaps the demise of maybe where it's headed, I realize that I'm out of congruence with taking on this particular team to build relationships and make education better. I just know for sure that I am not the person to be the teardown of our district, and I cannot be that person for Mountain View School District. And so I want that timing to allow you all to find a particular person that may be able to do that. It's my hope that March 8th is good news. I hear mostly bad news around that the levy request asking for 40% of what you've asked in the last 12 or 13 years is going to not pass. And I will continue to tell our board and community that I don't know what that looks like. I can't, as an educator my whole life, get my mind wrapped around the type of cuts this board will have to make. And that's this year. That's at 1.7. In 10 months, give or take, around Christmas, you'll be back at it again. And the levy fatigue of what you deal with and our community deals with. It's a real issue. And I hear our community members struggling as you hear them, listening to the impacts to them personally and how it collides with trying to also salvage community and the education of our K-12 population. When I looked at Grangeville and Kuski 2.5 years ago, it was an exciting opportunity, and I've appreciated the opportunity to lead these people, dedicated group of principals and district leaders that working really hard every day, and really even more boiled down is the staff that you have in place that does this work every day. I'm truly amazed as I enter their classrooms and see the hard work that they give our students every day. It's amazing. With continued financial failure or refunding, whatever the board is going to be tasked with ultimately trying to do, this is a large uphill battle for Mountain View School District. And obviously, I wish the very best for all of the outcomes for that. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
What is your-
I would say that I'm going to give you everything I have at the end of my contract year, June 30th. And obviously keep everything in place that I can work on to help move our district forward. There are some things that we will have to do. One, obviously fulfilling GEM's principalship is going to be a big task. You're going to want the right person there. There are other things I sense trickling down right now with resignations. What is occurring with repeated failure is a real sense of insecurity for our team of educators. Not knowing whether could we be cut, could the program survive? And I'm filling those questions, our principals are filling those questions, and they're good questions for their families, I understand. And we can't answer other than to say, I know everything will be looked at. The board will have some real challenges in terms of deciding what is the bulk of those particular cuts. I've tried to wrap up a number in a large sense to give context to the number of people that maybe have to be reduced in force. Programming, just to get to the 1.7 is a massive undertaking. We're not talking, Todd, find us 3% or 5% cuts. Talking in this year around 17% cuts. And then in the next year, if it failed again, it would be nearly 30%, 25 to 30% cuts. And it just won't look anything like we know school for it to be. It is the only thing I can overlay to that. And they're guesses. And ultimately, you guys are going to have to spend some time, obviously this spring. We'll know a week and a day here what our next steps are. I hope with all hope that we have a spring we can move forward on, that our communities look at the work that you've done to say, thank you for the 1.7. I can't even believe it's that low. Thank you for placing a number that we think we can get behind and support, given all of the other things you're putting into the pot. I hope they recognize that. Certainly at 40% of the need, and then allow hopefully some things to be righted. I know there's people in the audience that have done a lot of work with our legislatures, sending out information to perhaps a plea, I guess it is how I kind of see some of that work, that enough's enough. And how do we change it so that we can fund education adequately? Kind of quoting John here a little bit. He says it well around just do what the Constitution states for the state of Idaho, and we probably aren't having tough conversations. So that's my path forward for all of you, and we'll do our very best to fill the holes that are forthcoming so that we're ready to go to move forward. Now, I will also say that in some of the resignation pieces, have to be conversations once they're outlined. If there's a negative result on March 8th, you may decide, can we not fill that as a savings measure? Some, you're not going to have an opportunity to maybe say that because it may be under statute that you have to have, for instance, a certain person in that building. So that's the plan moving forward. Thank you.
Keep up. All right, moving through the agenda, the first action item is with respect to the. Oh, my bad. Yeah, you're right. I'm kind of reeling a little bit here. My apologies. Ms. Hogg.
Thank you. We just completed creation of all the 2021-22 teacher contracts that now reflect the salary that was agreed upon at the conclusion of negotiations. So that was a huge endeavor for us at this time of year. And so what you will be seeing in the February treasurer's report, as well as the website posting, will be the retroactive catch-up from September through February, from September through January, and then new monthly amounts for all teachers from February throughout the end of the year, August. We also issued all of the extra duty, extra day supplemental contracts for those teachers who are teaching during their prep period because no one else could be hired to fill the position that was lacking, or they have extra days for, say, career technical education, our CTE programs, which used to be referenced as PTE programs, which used to be referenced as low ed programs, or shop and home ec back in that.
Thank you. Now the next item on the agenda is trustee reports.
I just have a little something, if that's okay. I'm Bea Edwards. I'm representative for Zone 3, and Todd and I attended Monday, Tuesday. It's called Day on the Hill, and it's the Idaho School Board Association. They allow us to meet with legislators and senators and representatives, and we attend training. So we got to meet with them and talk with them and give them our opinions on what we would like to see moving forward. And it was very interesting. The trainings were outstanding. I think the best part about going down there is talking to other superintendents and other trustees and finding out what they're doing. And a lot of the times, every time I go down there, I feel like I'm telling somebody an issue or something that we're having, some sort of problem, and they're like, well, do this. And I'm like, oh, did you guys do that? Yeah, we did this in 2015. You can do that. And so getting solutions to our problems, not just wondering, oh, I wonder how I can solve that problem. It's actually like people have done it, it's been implemented. And so it really is a good problem solving time to meet with those people. And just so you know, on this trip, the hotel was paid for Sunday night, Monday night, and that was it. So just so you know, the expenses.
This girl was talking about how she goes to one of them. One of the
It was
board
an
members.
opportunity to actually meet.
She goes and she hears how they totally famous and other different meetings, learn so much. She's always up to thinking that we can.
They hear our inputs and they struggle with how that interfaces with the work that they're trying to do, and a budget that's presented to them no different than our local level. And you also feel some of that bureaucratic, grind, I guess, in terms of them trying to get through. Trying to think if it was a all-day kindergarten piece that we have offered in our district, all-day kindergarten, and have funded that. it could be helpful for us with funding if they do pass all day kindergarten. We would make up that other half. Something got, one sentence, I think is how I remember, kind of got out of whack at one, and they were on with, it was just poised to just be approved and sent up to the next step, and it didn't. And so I think as educators there, I don't want to speak for UB, but I felt a little bit lost around the fact that we're so close. And here is basically a room filled with representatives of education, and it just grinded to a halt.
Well, and I really saw my naivety. Like Becky's always like, don't believe it until you see it. And truly, I was promised, oh, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. And you see the newspaper, and then it's like, you're at the meeting for 2 hours, and you're like, this isn't happening.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, it might not happen. So
I would say lastly, there was a pretty good debate with our new school superintendent for the state.
the forum
The
of the
forum,
three
and I think it's certainly
candidates.
worth you reading up on those three individuals. Obviously, the incumbent in Mrs. Ibarra, I think a third term. That's right. And some new people with some new ideas as well. And it was interesting. Thanks for going. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
If you feel it's an appropriate time, I've been asked a couple of questions repeatedly by community members, and I'd like to just give a report on a couple of things. I've been asked by quite a few people some questions about events that have happened since June, and I would like to just read a short statement that I've prepared. Regarding the superintendent's salary, I think there needs to be clarification that two things are being discussed in the public. There are two separate board decisions for two separate topics. I just want to state that at our December meeting in 2021, the superintendent was presented with his evaluation. And during that meeting, it was voted by the board to extend his rolling 3-year contract for another year, which included an increase in his vacation days going forward. And at that time, his salary was not changed. Salary for the upcoming 2022-2023 year was not addressed at that time, as it's been our district's longstanding practice to fairly and openly address all employees' compensation when building the budget for the upcoming year. Regarding the discussion about salary changes and payments, I would like to remind people that this is something that occurred long before December 2021, and it affected all employees of the school district. In June, when the district presented the revised 2020-2021 budget and the proposed 2021 and 22 budget, we placed focus on the subject of salaries because everyone needed to understand a few things. I don't know if everybody remembers, but it was kind of a big mess. Originally, there was a governor's holdback. These conversations started in January of that year, which resulted in 0 increases in salary funding for each of the 3 categories of school staff. That being the case, the district did not increase anyone's salary or wage during 2020-2021. So no one received an increase. We held everyone. But in late May, and this is our government arguing with each other, JFAC decided that. Yes.
Maybe speak up a little bit, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay.
So in late May, our government started arguing with itself. JFAC said, Governor, no, sorry, you can't do that. Basically, so they declared that his 5% holdback was not happening for education. So the state funding for salaries of each of the 3 categories of different school staff was paid with the final 2020-2021 state foundation payments to the district. This occurred in late May, so we're almost at the end of our school year. So the district did not pass this on to staff during that last month. We're currently making up for that in this current 2021-2022 school year. So when the budget and review points were presented, it was clearly stated that in order to do the right thing to retain and recruit staff, the budget for, and I hate the years, I apologize, 2021-2022, we factored in an average annual increase for based off of that 2019-2020 salary, because we didn't change anything in 2020-2021.
an average annual increase of 3.5% for all certified, non-certified, and transportation staff, and an annual 2% average increase for administrative staff. So I just want to really make sure that we're clear on the math of what we're talking about, because I know this has been discussed that maybe it looks funny. No one intended anything to look funny. Our state was making a mess with what money we had and when we had it, when we didn't have it. So basically what we did to give back the money that the state gave back to us was take the administrative salaries that were from 2019 to 2020. We basically gave them a 2% increase for that 2020-21 year and the 21-22 year. So they weren't getting a 4% increase. They were getting the 2% that they should have had the year prior when they were monkeying with what money we got. And then the 2% increase would be for this year as we felt was merited. This was all done in the June budget time of 2021. For the teachers, basically we did the same thing, 3% for the 1 year, or I'm sorry, 3.5% for the 1 year, 3.5% for the second year. So while it may look like a 7% increase, basically we were again making up for the prior year. The district at will non-certified support staff, same situation, 3.5% for the 1 year, 3.5% to the other. So basically we, in those cases, we took 7% and applied it to that 2019-2020 so that they were caught up for both years. And I hope that makes sense. We're trying to kind of make that really clear. I just want to summarize that the reason behind the timing and the amount to these particular wage increases was because we received that funding for 2021 salaries too late in that year to negotiate and perform all the tasks that would have been required to pass that increase along to our staff. I think our business office very, very openly told the board and the public during that June budget hearing that the increases for all salaries were built into the budget for 2020, 2021, and 2021-2022 school years. Basically, in order to do the right thing for our people, retain current staff, recruit new staff. We have different calendars, just so everybody knows, for how we pay our employees of the district. And if you have questions on that, I'd be happy to go through those individually. But, you know, we've also had things come in where in December of 2020, any salary increases due to COVID dollars, if we had to acknowledge and compensate staff, we had to have that done by the end of the year. So if there's fluctuations in that time frame, we had to make those payments before that year was completed. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm this here. And I just also want to explain too, as Becky also said, we are still working to finalize all wage changes. That's not been 100% accomplished yet. So all teacher retroactive and now final 2021-2022 salary amounts went into the payroll run on February 25th. There are still longevity amounts for non-certified administrative staff that are yet to be corrected and will come out in the March payroll. So when they're giving money, taking money, giving money, taking money, it just kind of made a big mess of everything. And I'm hoping when we're done with this next payroll that we've got that all cleaned up and where it should be. Just historically, to remind people, I just want to make it clear for clarification purposes, at the June 21st, 2021 board meeting, we did accept the 2021-2022 budget after we made transfers to replace a supplemental levy with the forest reserve funds. At the December 20th meeting of 2021, the superintendent's evaluation was delivered in executive session. That's a normal practice because it's kind of private. I don't think anybody would want their evaluation delivered to public. That'd be a good thing to do. But his evaluation and contract were voted on and approved in open session following that executive session. The evaluation itself was a compilation of the board members' individual evaluations. So basically every board member was given a template, said, please fill this out, send it into the board chair.
The board chair sent it to a third-party consultant for individually compile that all together. And then that's what was presented to him in executive session. It was presented to him in executive session. I want to be really clear. I've heard some things out there that evaluation was not created in executive session. Each board member did it independently, was compiled by a third party, and then it was presented. For these two separate board decisions, I offer these explanations for transparency and clarification only. The school board made salary changes to all district employees in June of 2021 through budgetary changes that were voted on and approved. The superintendent's evaluation contract extension without any salary change, only an increase in vacation days, were voted on and approved by the school board in December of 2021. I hope our community and district can build bridges of understanding to a point where we seek answers and clarification instead of diving into speculation. I know the inner workings of our public school system can be complex. I really do. Sometimes it's a major headache for us as board members and our staff to learn every little minute detail of how every penny works. But I hope we can continue to work together to present transparent answers that are simple and straightforward as possible, just while still giving the full information necessary to understand the issues. I know that's long-winded and I apologize, but some of this stuff is complicated. But I just want to get down to the point of, some things occurred in this point in time that affect this point in time, and there's a lot of back and forth. And I think our business office is just trying to dot their I's and cross their T's. And unfortunately, we can't control the governor or the legislature or JFAC or any of them. But I just want to thank them for doing their best to take the money that we were not given, but and get it to our employees how it should be. Thank you for bearing with me.
Thank you, Melissa. Good job. All right. School trustee report. Casey, anything?
I'm gonna forego mine right now.
All right. Thank you. Yes. No, that's good. We are at the point in the agenda where it's public input session. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll do my best not to skip over anybody. So to begin with, and our first speaker is going to be Katrina Huger, please.
Thank you. I have my lovely assistant, Kim Bales, handing out some paperwork that I'd like to give the board. I'm here to address my concerns over the rewrite for the Code of Ethics. As Bea alluded to, you as a board are members of the Idaho School Board Association, and you have lots of benefits from that association. And one of them specifically is the Code of Ethics for school board members. And that was used to create your current Code of Ethics that you have. The proposed district rewrite that you have to the Code of Ethics, it does not align with the current Code of Ethics for the district. There's 16 different codes on that school board, one with the Idaho School Board Association, and then there's 28 in your total one because you have operations. And only 2 of those are represented in this rewrite. The rewrite states that to represent the whole of my community, parents, taxpayers, and businesses. Yet there's no mention of district personnel. That bothers me. It also states to conduct all trustee business consistent with my oath of office. That's in addition to supporting the full Code of Ethics. In Region 2, which is basically from Riggins up to Potlatch, the school districts within our areas all use the Idaho School Board's Code of Ethics. Riggins, Cottonwood, Nez Perce, Orfino, Highland, Lapwai, Lewiston, Moscow. In fact, I can't find a school district in the state that doesn't use the Idaho School Board's Code of Ethics. Idaho school boards value the Idaho School Board's Code of Ethics, which includes compiling with open meeting law, Idaho education code laws, abiding by the chain of command, taking problems and complaints to the superintendent and not to district staff or our board meeting. They value giving district staff and personnel their due support. And the board realizes that decisions that are made as a team by the majority vote, which supports the district as a whole, not as an individual, and values the outcome of the vote being supported by all board members. that code is not a violation of the freedom of speech as it's referenced. By taking this code out of order to get 2 board members to sign the code of ethics represents those board members as individuals and does not represent the district as a whole. You both knew what you were doing when you signed up to run for the district's trustee position. And if it's just too difficult for you as an individual to sign the code of ethics as written, do the patrons of this district a favor and submit your letter of resignation. Thank you.
Bill Lane, please.
Bill Lane from Clearwater, Iowa. And I think that it's a difficult situation that the board has to administer the structure of the school board and the school operation. And I, as a taxpayer, pay my taxes, and on that tax is also part of the school board funding. And I would encourage us, and here again, I speak just as an individual taxpayer, that I live on Social Security, which that's all I have coming in. I have a little bit of savings that helps to make up the difference once in a while. And in the area that I live in, the median income is probably $30,000, maybe $40,000. And that's it. And I would like to see some of the problems that were existing in my mind as I look at the finances and the levies and the cost, is if we had a audit by a CPA, by the board, and so that was public, and so the public could see where the money goes, where the money comes in. That would certainly help to clear up a lot of the misconception and things that just are rumored throughout the community and throughout Idaho County. And so I would encourage you to really think seriously about that and make it public so that we can see what's happening in the school, because it's not easy. And you're not, and superintendent is, it's not easy. And the other people, and so we're all in this together. And so the more information that I have to make a decision on whether I'm going to vote for the levy or not depends upon the information financially that comes to me through whatever. And I don't know whether the school board has an audit or not. And so I'd encourage you to make that public, get out there, and so the public can see it and understand it. And that way, and you know, I just got to vote no on the levy until I can see what's happening in the school board financing system. And so that I can look at it, because I know that when I run out of money, I have to quit spending. But yet, we still have to fund the program that is needed for the kids to the school. And I agree with that. But I just would like to have more information on how the finances is set up, where the money's coming from, what's coming from the state, what's coming from the Forest Service, and that sort of thing. So I just would leave that with you and would encourage you to see about doing some kind of an audit and make it public so everybody knows what's happening financially.
Thank you, Mr. Lane.
Excuse me. You want Polly, I'm sorry, I'm just going to be just louder on the 3-minute part for you.
Yeah,
So you can, I mean, she squeaks, want her to squeak the computer.
Yeah,
or
squeak
you
the
want-
computer again, that's good.
I certainly didn't hear it.
That's awesome.
Renita Lee, please.
My name is Renita Lee. I actually live in Grangeville since I returned from the military, but I was born and raised here in Kuski and an alumni of Colorado Valley. So I kind of have my heart in both places. I'm here to address in regards to your vote extending the administrative staff contracts to 2024, 2025. that I can't quite determine what your plan is. This district does not afford the teachers or the other staff the luxury of having employment contracts for more than 1 year at a time. Mr. Fisk commented that the administrators are feeling the pressure of the uncertainty of not having a job beyond X amount of years, yet you ask your teachers and other staff to do it every single year with no guarantee from your year if they're going to be employed. My question also is what's the potential liabilities of having the highest paid employees in the district on an extended contract, and then the levy fails repeatedly, and you must be forced to make administrative cuts because you can't get down to where you just have no teachers. If you have them on an extended contract, are you not liable to pay out that contract? Why would we even do that in the situation that we're in right now? Also, and thank you, Trustee Cashmitter, for actually helping me with that information. I was having a little difficult time finding when the vote was for the 4% that was given to the administrative staff. But thank you for clarifying it was in June. And yes, I do see that the new contracts actually are not readily available on the district website. The one for the previous years are. However, I was able to obtain that. And you're correct, there was a 4% increase for the salaries of the administrative staff, with the exception of 2, and they received a 1.113 salary increase from 2021 to the 21-22 school year. So that's a little confusing as to why there was an 11.113 increase for 2 of your administrative staff. 2 administrative staff that actually, you were going to be voting to give them another year or 2 beyond the end of their 2023 contract, when we possibly can't even afford all those administrators. So that was very interesting to me. The math is correct. I'm actually very good at 5th grade math. So you can actually pull up your contracts off your website. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Stiegel?
Linda Spiegel, Clearwater. First off, I want to thank you all for the willingness to serve. I know it can be a really difficult and thankless job, I'm sure. But I do want to say I believe now is a particularly poor time to be asking the community to pass a levy. Growing inflation is causing significant increases in cost of food, fuel, clothing, everything. Economists are predicting the very real possibility of a severe recession. The world is so unstable that at this time we expect things will get worse, perhaps much worse, before getting better. There is no assurance of economic improvement anytime soon. I suggest now is the perfect time to teach kids a lesson on economizing. Show that you can stretch that budget, trim it, get creative. We have to do that in our own individual lives. Schools should be doing the same. Show kids you care not just about them, but those who would be adversely affected by passage of this levy. There are a lot of people that are on fixed incomes and just cannot afford that increase. And we can't always get what we want. Sometimes we get what life's circumstances dictate, and we must make the best of them. Therefore, I will be urging a no vote on the levy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stiegel. Kathy Ward.
Thank you. I just want to say that living on a fixed income, like it's maybe just said, is difficult. And I feel like that, our schools need to work with what they have and be able to, like she said, teach the children how to make do.
Thank you. Cindy Dollar?
Stokely.
I'm sorry.
Stokely.
Thank you.
No, that's
Yes.
Oh, wrong one. We have 2.
I'm Cindy Dollar,
There you
the other Cindy. I'm a secretary at Clearwater Valley Elementary. I've been secretary at Clearwater Valley High School. I've been on the school board. I'm a lifelong member, 4th generation in Clearwater and the Clearwater Valley region. And anyway, I hear some contracts are coming up, and I'm here to endorse Joe Rodriguez. I've been secretary under David Snodgrass, Dennis Cocklemeyer, Fred Woods, and when we had the interim where we couldn't get a principal in, and it was a split between Colby Krieger and Mark Scheibe, who is now gone, rest of his soul, under Dave Harrington, Randall Miskin. And now I'm 3 years with Joe Rodriguez, secretary with him. And he's a stellar, and I mean a very stellar principal. He's principal not just for Clearwater Valley Elementary, but also Elk City. He's also tech director for the district. He's also does ICs, which is a massive report that we have to download in order to get funding and stuff, things like that from the state. And he does it with precision and accuracy. He stands behind our teachers and our students, and when they need help, he's there. The students come to him and they know that they're going to feel safe to talk to him. They're not ridiculed. He knows how to get down, talk on their level. He goes into the classrooms at least twice a day, I believe, to talk and to watch and to observe our teachers. And our teachers don't feel any reserve in going and talking to him. And just in my opinion, and I believe the whole staff at Clearwater Valley Elementary would I would consider you foolish if you don't extend his contract. I would just give him kudos. What a great principal.
Betsy Morris.
Like some of these others, I'm on benefits. Unfortunately, I have to say with age, you go through health problems too, so I have to consider that. And this year, I have more expenses and trouble because my 5 youngest grandchildren lost their dad to COVID. So I do have to help tons financially. We can't afford more taxes right now. Much expense we have. And I do understand about education as a teacher for many years. But it's time we cannot do that in this area. It's too stressed with the economy.
Thank you, Betsy. Mike Dominguez.
Mike Dominguez from Kuski, Idaho, former board member. I'm just here for your STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, graduation diplomas, as well as GPA, weighted GPA. When I was on the board, we had some teachers come in and presented this to us about offering STEM diplomas and weighted GPAs. We accepted the STEM diplomas and we now offer those to students, which all of my children that have graduated and going to graduate this year have received STEM diplomas. Unfortunately, none of the STEM diploma recipients have been the valedictorian or salutatorian for the schools because they've taken the weight of 8 extra credits. And so, for example, my daughter, who's going to graduate with 45 college credits, has a regular GPA of 3.97. But if you take the college credits that she took, which is those 45 credits, you'd have over a 5 GPA. But she's neither valedictorian or salutatorian, which to her, it doesn't matter. I told her that's not going to mean anything down the road. My son, who got a STEM diploma, he was offered a job right off the bat in the technology industry down in California, making excellent wages, paying his room and board. So what I'm asking you as the board to do is reconsider this weighted GPA. I can tell you that there were some people that came and had some disadvantages to it. But I think as far as our district's concerned, a weighted GPA is going to give those that are striving harder in the district, seeking these STEM diplomas, taking the 8 extra credits required to get to that. We're rewarding those children as opposed to those that come into school their senior year, take 2 classes, the 2 simplest classes, you know, the required math and science, I believe it is, and then they go home for the rest of the day. So I just wanted to present that to you to reconsider that weighted GPA. It doesn't affect them leaving here. My daughter, when she applied for Idaho, she's got a full ride to U of I. She's going in as a sophomore. They told her she can skip her freshman year. They don't even want to know your weighted GPA in their school anymore. So I've already talked with Mr. Fisk. He took it on. I appreciate you doing that. And I talked to Mr. Weddle. But I just wanted to bring it to the board as well to reconsider that weighted GPA. It kind of got pushed aside with all the problems we have on the board. I want to share one quick thing about levy. When you have a $14 million budget and you got $12 million coming from the state, the Fed, that money's got to come from somewhere. We've elected you people to take that on for us. We know you make tough cuts. When you're short $2 million, we know that money's got to come from somewhere. That's coming from us taxpayers. Day on the Hill, I thank you for going. I would encourage all of you to go. I personally stood in front of the House Education Committee and told them about our problems, and they generally listened. You know, they took it in. So if every one of you can go down and stand in front of that House Education Committee, tell them about the problems we have here, they will listen. So that's it. Thank you.
Now, Cindy.
The other Cindy. Nice to meet you. I just want to, so I'm from Zone 4, and I want to thank the board for doing what you do. It's kind of a thankless job, and you're really between a rock and a hard spot on a lot of things, and this is a very contentious issue with the levy and money, and especially after coming off of 2 years of COVID. Now we have possibly a war with Russia and Ukraine, and increasingly rising inflation rates. So anyway, I just want to thank you for where you're at. Anyway, I wanted to speak a little bit to the impact of the levy. I know personally the effect of the last 2 years have had a hard effect, especially on those with limited incomes or fixed incomes. I came from another state. I took care of my mom and dad. My mom crashed medically in 2016. And my dad had dementia. I had to make the decision to put him somewhere because we couldn't keep him at the house while mom was in and out of the hospital. It was to the tune of $18,000 a month to keep him at home. We found a place, $8,000 a month to keep him in a place where we could see him. My mom tried to live with us. That didn't work. I found a different place for him. But if you've ever seen nursing homes, care facilities, it's heartbreaking. It is absolutely heartbreaking. So I'm just saying, you know, our seniors that are on fixed incomes, there's so many medical things that can happen, and it's so expensive, you know, so expensive. I worked in a medical office for 22 years, well, actually 30 plus years, but I did credit collections. I heard the stories. We had a lot of cancer patients. I heard people that lost everything. So it happens here, it happens everywhere. So, you know, our kids are important, absolutely. But we have, I believe, from what I've seen with this community, we have a lot of people that have bought their property, they lived on their family farms, they've worked their family property, you know, and, you know, they could lose that. So an extra $700-800 a year for the levy is huge. It's absolutely huge when you have cut everything you can. You go shopping once a month, maybe to Lewiston. You don't drive anywhere. You pay taxes. You pay you pay insurance. You pay medical costs. You have 20-year-old vehicles. I mean, that is a real issue. And so having the levy, I think, is just very difficult. It would be nice, as I like numbers, and it would be really nice. I've gone through pretty much all the financials on the webpage, so I'm very thankful those are out there. I sit and look and look and look and look. I love it. So not everybody has that time or the desire to do that. So I am thankful for that. But I think having, you know, fixed income, my husband and I are now on a fixed income. So, you know, we have to cut what we need to cut, and we can only do so much, especially with everything else going up and the continued going up. Thank you.
Okay. Next time on the agenda, I have the second reading, in this case of policy series 3000. As I understand it, something that obligates us to go to a third reading so long as the board agrees. We are review. So at this point, I entertain a motion regarding series 2000 policy. Okay, we have a second.
I looked through half of it. And I want to look through the rest of it. I haven't had time though, but on 3010, A1 to 3, preventing or recruiting potential open enrollment students, it says neither the district nor its employees will not take any actions to prohibit or prevent application by a student. It's just kind of,
Let me give
Yeah,
a
I'm just not reading it
recommendation that
right.
I can to
Yeah.
the board. And then this is really important, so I won't be able to speak to your question
Okay.
without trying to just sit down and dive into it. But I think it's probably with a question like that, would push you to a third reading. Please, as you guys go through that, just write it out. And then
okay, as I'm
dialogue.
reading it for like the 10th time, it's starting to make
Yeah.
sense to me. So let's just,
Yeah, there's some
good.
confusion around that. That's the
That's fine.
key piece to get it right, because you're ultimately going to be held to
If I
it.
read it an 11th time, it might
That's
make more
like clicking
sense.
there.
Yeah.
Some of them do take some of those paths where you're really trying to be on that, but as you go through, the 3000s again, as a reminder, was a rewrite.
Right.
That boilerplate came back through.
Okay.
5000s, we're trying to pick up the other side of what we were. So.
Okay, I'll table that. We'll withdraw.
All right. So again, with respect to, I'll just ask, can I get a motion to continue to a third reading on the 3000 series?
I'll motion.
A motion, I'll second it. Moving on to the 5000 series.
Wait. Yeah, so Larry, you went with the second, so just go ahead and ask for the vote on that first reading or the second reading of the action items. Take it to a vote, yeah.
Okay, all right. With respect to the 3000 series, can I get a vote on a third reading?
The motion
to be
was by
continued?
Lacy to accept the second reading.
That's right.
Larry seconded, and now I just need a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, Lacy made the motion. Larry seconded.
You don't have to make a motion. You don't have to take any action if you want to go to an additional reading. You can just take no action. In fact, we just really didn't notice things. Just let it be. We can just, if there's no motion, we can just put it to a second reading.
Okay. No, in this case, it'd be a third reading.
Third reading, third and final
Okay, let's
reading.
just do that with third reading with five.
So
Five
go to-
thousand.
go to a third.
We don't need that motion, all right?
On the first one, on 3000.
Ultimately, you don't. Just a reminder, as you guys look through that, please send the number, and even if you want to pull out the highlighted piece, doesn't make sense, you might need to rewrite it, so it makes better sense. So if you have something like, send it to me, and we can go back and forth, we'll put it into the rewrite there.
So the next block actually of items is our consent agenda. One is the minutes of the previous meetings. There were two. One was a special meeting, board workshop, and the other one was a regular board meeting. The second item is room and board, and a little transportation request, and the third is the treasurer's report. Making a motion on those three
Mr.
items.
Chairman, I make a motion to accept the new business consent agenda to be approved in one motion.
Stacy seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Under action item and new business, we have recommended new hires and or resignations.
I would make a motion that we accept the new hires and resignations as presented.
There's a second. Second, Lacy. All in favor?
We can discuss this thing.
Discuss, you already discussed it. Discuss it already.
Oh, we're doing this in one motion?
No, we don't have to. We can do it. The,
I'm sorry. I was reading.
so let's restate this. So we have a motion, have a second. However, I understand there's some discussion that's been requested.
Yeah, do we have to do all 1 through 5 in one motion?
No.
You're just on.
Just
number
one.
Okay.
I would just like to move that we address, I know we're discussing, but I'd like to address it during executive session. The new hires.
If there's a motion to accept the new hires, we can either vote yes or no.
Yeah, I'd just like to,
How about,
she made a motion ahead of time, so I couldn't make a motion,
Understood.
so that's all.
how about we table this to after the executive session?
Well, you have a motion
You have a
now on
motion.
the floor.
Have to
so
call
you
for a
have to
vote.
Call for a vote, die for lack of a vote, you can start again.
You have a motion. and
It is.
second.
I can't table until the end of the agenda.
Not with the second.
Not with the second. All right, so we have a first and a second. Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Now we can.
Can I just make sure that we all do understand that we cannot? This is not listed on the agenda for executive session, so you cannot
It
discuss
says
it there.
personnel issues. So I thought that
This is
doesn't
to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or discipline charges against. It doesn't say just personnel issues. It would have to be listed specifically on there.
Notice it up for executive session next month.
But it also says to consider the evaluation, which of an employee, which they're potential employees.
These are new hires. These are a list of new hires. There's no evaluation of new hires that we're recommending, that I'm recommending to you to pass. So that we can move forward.
If I may possibly read into what I think he is referring to as the evaluation process in terms of their candidacy. And she's taking a broad application of that term. And frankly, I don't disagree. And one of the reasons we're here is to be able to discuss that. So if that's what we need to do, we need to find a way to do that. So we've had a vote. It's at this time,
Speak up if you have
I
something.
believe Casey made the correct diagnosis in terms of the executive session 74206B that is listed here, as Melissa said, is not the correct paragraph under which you review new hires. So if you wish to place that on a future agenda, you may. But you cannot discuss it in executive session at this particular meeting because it wasn't properly noticed.
No.
I'm
not.
I know you want to be done. with
I
it, but
asked if we
vote
could
on
speak
that.
about it, and I thought it was covered under
Had any
this.
Choice now, it's been voted down.
Right. So we will ask, I will ask for it to be on next month, regular scheduled meeting agenda. The recommendation for new hires and resignations.
So in doing so, there are principals that are waiting for these people to arrive in these positions. Now you place them off of a month. It's going to pose real difficulty for these particular areas and positions.
So how could we talk about them individually? Could I make a motion to discuss these individually or pass these individually? So really, we're not saying no or yes, we're just saying you have to say yes.
Mr. Fitz, that was the biggest hesitation I have, the time involved in another month. This doesn't prevent us from having a special session.
No, it doesn't prevent you from, setting up another meeting with a special session, put that on there, but we're going to, these people have been placed, ready to go.
I understand.
That's fine. If we push that out an entire month, then we are not able to obviously put them in those positions until they're approved.
That's why I'm recommending a special session as soon as possible, and we'll get that figured out to make it happen. All right. Okay. You understand? Second item under new business, declare that an area of need exists in the district for teaching assignments 21-22, which will require alternative authorization. And this is with respect to a K-8 teacher, is it Catola? Melissa Catola is listed on the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I'd make a motion that we declare that an area of need exists in MBSD 244 for teaching assignments in 2021-2022 that require alternate certification authorization.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now, with respect to the executive session, I believe item 3 under this new business was the item that we wanted to discuss in the executive session. With respect. Okay.
We go ahead and skip and do 4.
Say again, Casey?
Skip down and do
Just skip it. Okay, that was my understanding. And then we'll take the vote on the executive session. Okay, with respect to item 4, the 22-23 school calendar. Needs our approval or not? Do I hear a motion?
I motion to accept the 22-23 calendar.
A second. I second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? And lastly is item number 5, which is the first reading of 1600 and 1605, which is the revision of the Code of Ethics. It's not a motion, I'd just like to put it over to a second reading.
In those two particular pieces, I guess, just to highlight the board, just from your work session, that was pulled revision of Code of Ethics and then created 1605 as a separate operating procedure. Obviously, the board may decide if they want to work on that further.
Okay, our last item with respect to the regular agenda is possible agenda items for future board meetings. This is something the board decided to include on the agenda during regular meetings so that we have an opportunity to be as inclusive as we could.
Do we need to put in anything to start negotiating or no? Anything in this?
I think we're going to need to know what happens on March 8th. And I know we're busy with working with the union. They're ready to begin those negotiation pieces. I believe that's Melissa and Ruby. And then I think we'll hit the ground running quick.
Do we need to put anything in the next agenda?
No, you guys have been identified as that committee. And so once I meet with that crew, we'll set some times and get going. I'm guessing they're going to wait to see what the results are before we move forward as they craft their plans.
I just say it. That's all.
So I move that we review and evaluate business manager adjusted duties and potential salary adjustments at the next meeting.
Say that again.
I motion that we review and evaluate business manager adjusted duties and potential salary adjustments.
B, you won't need to make it as a motion. You're just obviously putting things for.
Okay,
items
great.
For future business. It's nothing for you guys to pass on there.
Okay. And we might add clerk to that as well. Business manager and clerk.
There's two, those are two separate entities, right?
Right. Correct.
Anything else, you guys are, obviously it's not limited to for tonight, right here in the moment. And we're certainly gonna get with Larry or myself. And we can, place this in. Okay.
All right, so then we are going to discuss going into executive session. The open meeting law requires a vote by roll call.
Mr. Chairman, I think the way we do it is we listen to the recommendations and then we go into executive.
Is that how you want to?
Well, that's how we've done it for years. We'll listen to Mr. Fisk's recommendations.
My recommendation is that you bring back your entire administrative team minus Mr. Adam Uphold, which I know a lot of people would like to keep, including myself. All of their evaluations completed. We have a great group of leadership team here. Remember, administrators have no tenure capability as teachers do. Teachers have tenure rights to that position. Administrators have no tenure rights. The only rights they have is within the contract, period. So you can't give more than a 2-year contract to a principal, and you cannot give more than a 3-year contract to a superintendent. That's their only protection in terms of something they can fall back on because they don't have tenure. They could be a 20-year principal. And the board may say that they want to make a change. And in doing so, in this case, they would have a year to make that particular change for themselves. Obviously, if there was something that was done that violated any type of law that would require termination, that's aside from that. My recommendation to you is that you offer 2-year contracts to your administrative team. Keep these important people locked into the process. They are going to be the ones that ultimately are going to be doing some of the very hard work of budget cuts moving forward. And their teams are going to be there. That's for Heather Becker, Randall Miskin, Cody Weddle, and Joe Rodriguez.
If I'm not mistaken, though, they do have a certain amount of protection. If they were a teacher here prior to becoming a principal, then you have to offer them a teacher's job if the principal contract is not renewed.
There are specifics that would require counsel in that particular realm of things, depending on what the reasoning was for you having to place them back in that role. But I would lean on counsel rather than saying to you yes, because there are specific instances that you would need to have that be informed by that by the attorney.
So getting back to just a brief explanation of the process, as much my edifications for everybody's understanding here. In order to enter executive session according to the Idaho's open meeting law, we need a motion. And second, we would state the reason, which I will do at this time. It also appears on the agenda, which is Idaho Code 206. Actually, it's 206 subparagraph 1A and 1B would be the reason. And that's to consider personnel matters. Executive sessions, as I've learned, have to be very specific as to their content and the discussion, and they are limited to a total of only 6 things that can be discussed in executive session. So they're very much controlled, if you will. So I'm just mentioning that for what it's worth. So with respect to executive session, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to enter into executive session, Idaho Code 74-206.
Second that.
I have a first and a second. This law requires a roll call vote.
Can we clarify that that is Idaho Code 74-206, Section B? Listed on the agenda.
So, we do a roll call vote.
Just call everybody's name.
Thursday.
Oh, no, you have to. Roll call it, roll call it. Melissa?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, I also vote aye. A two-thirds majority is required. With 4 people, we have 5. And so we are going to proceed into executive session. But what that means is, I'm afraid the public is not privy to observing the meeting. And so we would ask you, we'll go ahead and take a break.
I would request,
Okay, whatever you want to
I
do.
would request a break for the
Yeah,
board.
I'm just going there. If you got a touch, we'll be a little short. That way we're just not to. I'll do that. Find the classroom and then move that. We can't vote on anything. It's an action item in executive session, so we will come back and reconvene if you're interested.
Good.
Dinner by about half, huh? All right. For the record, Polly, if you wouldn't mind, we're out of executive session at 7:44 p.m. We should have made a time slip for when we went in. Right. Yeah, probably did. Okay. With respect to item 3 on the new business administrative contract recommendation. Comments?
Just want to remind the board that you have 1 employee. Me. I'm the only employee that you evaluate.
Are you ready for a motion?
Then why in here do we have the option to renew an admin contract if we don't have an option?
All right.
To renew.
All right. I am. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we table this for now.
I'll second.
We have a motion to table this. I had been the motion just to ask, are we going to table it to a special hearing? Special meeting
And the intent of the special meeting is to do what?
to address this issue.
Issue of what? I don't know what the issue is.
Voting on the contracts. Further.
Okay.
And
The
for the
board
new
does not-
hires.
The board's not privy to individual evaluations. I have heard not one thing from a board member in all of my time here about any of my leadership team. Nothing to correct, nothing to focus on. I am perplexed at why this board would hold on these important individuals, given all of the other things that you have going in this district. I am perplexed at that. Now, again, to underline, not one thing given, not only with this board, but the prior board. Nothing for me to put towards an evaluation, nothing for me to work on, any contextual pieces of something that might be wrong. No plan of improvements, nothing. And that is your job as a trustee, to send any of those things forward to me. All of their evaluations are done and completed. They're in great shape. These are quality individuals working their tails off every day.
All right, there's a motion on the table. I will ask, are there any objections to the amendment that I made to the motion?
We need to also address the new hires and resignations in that same meeting.
We can decide on the agenda for the special meeting. Let's stay on topic. We have a motion on the table. Do I have any objection to my amending
Who
the
was the
motion?
motion, Larry?
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Who made the motion?
Casey made a motion.
And Lacy seconded, and you added something.
I'm offering to amend it that we table this to the holding of a special meeting.
That was the
I'll say
that was the motion.
Hmm?
That was the motion.
Okay, it wasn't clear in my mind, that's why I wanted to say it. You know, my apologies to my colleagues, and I would add the word forthwith. Have the special meeting forthwith. Without delay. No objections to the motion as amended? We don't at this time, no, we don't. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. And I believe. Hmm?
Do we need to do a motion for you guys?
Okay. Say, sure.
We're adjourned.